bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing.
Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to share with you a list of books that disappointed me this year. I believe I have 20 books on this list. It's just an arbitrary number. I went through my Goodreads, looked at the books that I read this year, and picked out some that I really had high hopes for. Either it was an author that I have read from before and absolutely loved other books by that author, so I was really excited for their new book or a book that I was picking up by them. It was really hyped in the community because, you know, book talk, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, like I'm all over the place with social media, so if I see a book constantly talked about, there's a chance that I'm gonna pick it up. And then also just a book that may have just sounded really interesting to me and it didn't meet my expectations. So today we're gonna be talking about the 20 most disappointing books that I read this year. All right, the first one was Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins, and I'm not sure exactly why I was so disappointed by this. I think it wasn't creepy enough. It wasn't thrilling enough. The island vibes were there, but it was just kind of average to me. And there are these authors, okay? Rachel Hawkins being one of them, Ruth Ware being another one of them, and even Lisa Jewell being another one of them, that every single time they release a book, I get so excited about it because it sounds so good. And then most, like, if not a very high percentage of their books end up being very, very average to me. So yeah, Reckless Girls, it didn't have the creepiness factor or the thrilling vibes that I really wanted, but if you're looking for something with tropical island vibes, you can go ahead and pick that up. Also, the cover, not my favorite. Next up, The Plot by Jean Hans Corlitz. This is a book that I definitely heard about through social media. Everybody was talking about this book, saying that the plot was super unique, and the plot is about a teacher that steals one of his students' plots for the book because the student dies and he never saw anything happen with this book, and so he steals the plot of that book, writes it, it becomes like a best-selling novel, and then he gets a note that says, I know you stole that idea. Number one, the fact of the matter is that the plot of the story was not memorable at all to me. It wasn't even that earth-shattering or great. So I think if the author, like Jean Hans Corlitz, was able to come up with a super unique plot and then give that to us within that story, it would have been a little bit more compelling. I think if you like books about books, if you like books about writing, you might like this one, but that's not something I'm particularly drawn to, so this one just didn't work for me at all. Next up is The Invisible Husband of Frick Island by Colleen Oakley. Beautiful cover, absolutely interesting premise. The problem with this book is that it's set on this little island, Frick Island, and it has no island vibes, no small town community, no, like, I don't know, just like the residents of the community and the residents of the island, it didn't describe the island. It didn't describe the residents enough. It didn't seem like a small, tight-knit community. And I'm not saying that if you live on an island it has to be, but it usually is, let's be honest. And then also the whole explanation for the book hinges on if someone would have just asked the person, like, what are you talking about? And they asked them from page 1, the explanation was a sentence long. So instead of having a whole entire book about this, I either wanted a better explanation or just for our main character to ask much sooner. The next book I was disappointed by was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. And this is simply because I absolutely loved the guest list by this author. And so I had really high hopes for another kind of murder mystery-esque story. It's about a woman that's going to visit her brother in Paris. And when she gets to his apartment, he's not there. So she's looking for him. Like, he knew I was coming. He left me a message. Where is he? And she's interviewing the other residents of the building that he lives in. It was just very repetitive. The characters blended together. There was nothing making one stand out to another resident, and it just, like I said, felt very repetitive. The next one is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I think you are either going to love this book or not like this book so much. I don't think you're gonna hate it, and I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it to the level of People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read. I just think that it focused more on the aspects of the sister. It was supposed to be this sister trip to this small town, and then it's an enemies to lovers romance between her, like the main character, and this guy Charlie, that know each other from the city. They both work in like the publishing industry in one form or another. I think like one is an editor, one is a publicist, and you know, they butt heads and stuff like that, but it just wasn't for me. The anti-trope messages, it was just kind of like, okay, I get it. Like, it's almost like this is for the people that don't like Hallmark, like sweet happily ever afters, and I do like those, so this wasn't the book for me. But I'm glad that Emily Henry is kind of writing for all people, so I really think if you didn't like her first two books, or they were just okay to you, then this one might really work for you. Next up is Written in the Stars by Alexandra Bellafleur. I picked this up again because I was seeing it everywhere. I also do like astrology, so I figured like a female romance astrology book would be super awesome. It was just kind of dull. I didn't really like the characters. I didn't really like the pacing. I didn't really like, I don't know, it was just kind of off. But I do have a dedicated reading vlog for it, and I plan to continue in the series, but I just haven't done that yet because I just haven't really been that interested in picking up the other books, because I fear I'm going to feel the same way about them than I did about this one. Okay, next up is Deepwater by Emma Bamford, and this is completely my fault. I am a sucker for covers with this ocean kind of blue aesthetic vibe, summery vibe to it, and again, I just wanted more island with this one, but I got more like on the boat kind of. It almost felt like a travel memoir, which is not far-fetched because the author has wrote some travel memoirs about her time living on a yacht in Malaysia. So I just feel like the thriller elements were not there. I read this back in the summer and I wanted to be the person to spread the love, but I just couldn't do that. Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones, a short little horror novella that I have heard nothing but wonderful things about. I have come to discover that I do not like Stephen Graham Jones's writing. The premise, again, sounded really cool. That's why I picked it up, but I had also been seeing it everywhere on social media. This is about a group of friends that play pranks on each other, and they use this mannequin in a movie theater to like freak out one of their friends, and then at the end of the movie, the mannequin gets up and walks out. I honestly don't understand the story, to be completely honest, and being short, being horror, you know, I have found that there's just some horror that if it's like unexplainable, not tied to real life, I don't like it. So that was another one. The Summer Place by Jennifer Weirner, another author that I think I gave a try. I've read several books by this author and they've all been kind of like, okay, they're decent. They're women's fiction about usually women characters. In this one, they go to this like wedding and there's all of these people that have secrets, and you're just waiting to get all of the secrets revealed and all of that. It was just kind of like long and drawn out, and I didn't really like the characters, and the pacing was off, and yeah. Next up, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. You guys know that Riley Sager is one of my all-time favorite authors, definitely my favorite thriller author, and I've pretty much enjoyed every other book by this author. I've had like 1 3 stars, maybe a couple 4s, but you know, I've had some 5 stars in there as well. And this one, just, if you know my reading taste, you knew that plot twist was not going to work for me. I actually liked the slower kind of drunken stupor part in the beginning, beginning it was a little ridiculous with the alcohol. Like, we get it, you like your alcohol, but just that plot twist came, and there were parts about it that I did like, that I thought were unique and fun and I wasn't expecting, but I just came up with so many other theories about what was going on, and I think my theories would have been better, to be completely honest. But I have an entire episode on my podcast, Talk Bookish to Me, with my best friend Jessie from Reading with Jess, where we talk in depth about this book, and it is one of my favorite episodes from this past year. So if you really want more of my in-depth thoughts and Jessie's thoughts on this book as well, definitely check out that episode. Like I said earlier, The It Girl, Ruth Ware, it was a decent book. It just wasn't anything mind-blowing. It was really, 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 really too long. And I liked The It Girl. I liked the college campus. I liked the group of friends. But the problem was, is you have kind of like this present timeline, and then you have like what happened in the past, and I was much more interested in what happened in the past. Everything that was happening in the present, her being pregnant and all of this, I did not care at all. I didn't even understand like why she was pregnant, or like why. There were just so many things that I was just questioning, like, why was this a part of the story? It gave nothing to the story itself. So moving on to 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I have been hearing for years since this book released, and it was also a Reese's book club pick, and I just have heard nothing but amazing things about this, and I was so excited that I finally got a copy. I picked it off of Pango Books, and I was just really let down. I mean, it was fine. It was cute. It had, well, I will say it had cute moments, but it also had a lot of deeper, darker stuff about their past. And it also had to do with them being writers and authors and stuff. But at the end of the day, I just wasn't a fan. I know a lot of people are, they just, but I can't help it. I wasn't a fan. Okay, next up is Kill River by Cameron. I should have looked up how to say the author's last name, and I probably can't say it properly anyway. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It's this horror novel. It's marketed as adult, but it really follows these super young protagonists. Like, I think 13, 14, and then some of them are like 17. And it starts off, they go to this summer camp, and they're in this summer camp for a while, and then they're on this raft for a much longer time, going to this abandoned water park. And that portion of the book was so long. Like, they were literally on that raft for years, and then when they finally got to the water park, it was describing the water park in detail. I'm talking what it looked like, what it sounded like, what it smelled like, how the ride works, how the water flowed, how the like landscaping within the water park was done, all of that. Guess what? I didn't care. I just wanted people to start dying. And then by the time that started happening, I had completely lost interest. And it is the first book in a series, but I am just not interested at all. But I am interested in this author's other books. So I'm interested to continue with the author, not that particular series. You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca. I absolutely loved the first novella that I read by this author. Things have gotten worse since we last spoke. I believe that's the title, but I really, really enjoyed that one. But there was just something about this. Again, it was confusing. It was kind of told in two different parts. You have the present timeline, and then you have this kind of story that these characters are telling, and I didn't understand. I didn't get it. So I'm almost thinking that this author isn't for me, but every time they come up with another novella, I'm like, it sounds really good. Should I give it a try? But I don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Like, I feel like there's no plot to these. It's all just vibes. And while that's cool, it's not for me. I definitely need a plot in my books. Mentioning a lack of plot, let's talk about The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. Y'all, I had such high hopes for this. I was so excited. I don't even know why. I just randomly got super excited about this book this past summer, or was it early fall? Maybe it was early fall. All I know is that for some reason, I was overly excited to read this. I went out, got it from the library, and I'm so glad I got it from the library because it's on this list for good reason. It didn't have a plot. at all. Like, and even the characters were kind of just boring and repetitive, and I don't understand the point of this story. So like, I know there's some people out there that loved it. I'm just not one of them. So with all the books on these lists, I mean, if it sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out, but I tried to warn you. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, I have a few more. The Roughest Draft by Emily Wimberly. This was, again, about two writers, but it's supposed to be kind of like they used to be together, but now they're not together, and now they may be getting back together type thing. They are sent by their publicist to this like house during the summer so they can like write their books and start, or write a book, because I think they write together. And then it's just kind of exploring like what happened in the past, what's happening in the present, if they're going to be together, and it all just got kind of muddled and it wasn't good. And yeah, Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey, I actually really liked. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, but there was just something about this one. I don't know if it was the main character, I don't know if it was the love interest, I don't know if it was the lack of chemistry between the two characters, but it didn't work for me. I did like some of the representation about how like he was unsure of himself and stuff like that, but it almost felt fake a little bit. So yeah, I didn't really like that one. Next up is two witchy books. So the last two books on this list are witchy books. The first one being The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and I know a lot of people loved this fall. I was not one of them. The story just dragged on and on and on, and it just wasn't that interesting. The romance wasn't like something I could really root for. The magic and the witchy vibes weren't really there. It was almost just about like a babysitter falling in love with someone, like the caregivers of who she's babysitting. I don't know. It wasn't magical quite enough. I mean, it was a little bit, but not enough. And I don't know, I didn't really like the characters. The last one is In the Company of Witches by Oralee Wallace. This is a cozy mystery book that I wasn't initially, you know, excited about, but I picked it up to participate in a book club, and it ended up just not working for me. It had like hallmarks of cozy mysteries, like a lot of characters, some of the like downtown businesses and stuff like that, but I just didn't feel like the main character. Well, that was one of the problems, is I didn't feel like there was a main character. It's basically this girl and like her two aunts, and they all felt like main characters, and I've never read a cozy mystery like that. So even though there is a main character, she didn't necessarily feel like the main characters. And I don't feel like she was really trying to figure out the mystery. And the two aunts were actually much more interesting characters. So yeah, it just didn't work for me, but I know a lot of people are excited about that book and about the series, so good for them. But those are the 20 books that I was disappointed by this year. Like I said, I mean, to each their own. If they sound good to you, definitely still pick them up. But yeah, so that's all for today's video. Very soon I will have the list of most surprising books that I read this year. So those are books that I maybe wasn't expecting too much from, and I was really pleasantly surprised. So stay tuned for that. But that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye, friends.
Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing.